Okay, I'd like to call the Thursday, August 6th, ADA Commission meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I put all these on the agenda, and then they could sort of just be floating, and then we can take things off, I think, you know.
Okay.
So number 3 is the mission statement. Did we come up with anything yet? I know that was going to be like the side quest.
How deep do we want to get into one?
It's a good question.
I drew up this one.
Ah, cool.
If everybody wants to take it.
Thank you.
I gotta still do some edits. It's from the town of Maynard. But like I changed wording and stuff like that.
You mean like you gotta take out Maynard community and make it Douglas
Yeah, I gotta
community?
update it that way.
Little things like that.
So if you look up theirs and you look up ours, it's not the same. But that's what I went by. They had a really nice write-up on their website.
Looks pretty good. It's pretty thorough.
I like it, you know, like we were talking about last time a little bit, like it's about helping the community, but it's about people can learn from it too. Do you know what I mean? Like I think that's going to be, the education portion of it's going to be there.
Yep.
Because that's 99% of this committee. It's going to be education. So does everybody want to think about it? We'll wait for Dick before we did, obviously before
Yeah.
we decide anything. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to, without everyone
Yeah,
here.
we'll leave one, because there should be another one. We'll leave it with his.
Yeah. Is there an extra one there?
You can have this one.
We can make another copy. Does anybody have anything to add on this?
I can email it over to you if you want.
Yeah. Just leave that there for him.
Yeah, if anybody wanted to add or change anything,
Yep.
I mean, we can do whatever we want before we vote on it.
I mean, I think it's something we definitely put on the next one too. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't, I think
Yeah.
this is going to be like a
This is ideas and then.
fluid thing for a little bit.
I guess as long as it dovetails with what the town meeting voted for this commission to be, which I don't have that with me at the moment. As long as nothing contradicts, it's fine to me.
Cool. So we'll wait for Dick, show
Yeah.
Dick next meeting and
Yeah.
go from there. So the areas improvement is going to be the next, unless we come up with a better name, you know, because we didn't want to call, there was, if you remember, we didn't really know what to call it, so we came up with that. You know, if we wanted to start a running list that Sarah kept, but I don't know if anybody has anything, like if you read the minutes, we definitely went through
Yeah.
through it last time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just going to be on the agenda every time, that if anybody wants to add
Yeah.
anything to it.
Your minutes are here, so you can further back if you need to.
Did you ever find the ADA assessments?
That's next on
Yeah.
here. I'll wait until you get to that.
We'll do minutes at the end, but Sarah, if you want to maybe make a list at some point,
Okay.
do you know what I mean? Like, are the ones that we talked about?
Yeah.
Like sidewalks on Main Street were one.
Sure.
Right, and then
Yeah, the Martin Road.
Because I think we just have like a
playground.
spreadsheet. I think it's the best way. And then if things get done or fixed or, I don't know, whatever happens, we can just get rid of them. If
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah, sounds good.
So we'll move on to number 5 and
So if you look in your packet, I printed out one for everybody. In fact, let me borrow. I forgot to print myself one, so I'll just borrow his reference.
You,
So I found these electronically buried deep in the town's drives, and we have one on every facility as of 2008. So that was the last time this was updated, and each comes with 2 parts. There's the kind of a narrative related. So this is just for one facility. This is the town library, just a random one I picked. So it comes with a narrative, anything related to the building, and then it has a number of areas, as you can see, with just checkbox and some notes next to each one. So one of my goals, I was assigned when I took this role as to be the ADA coordinator or whatever it's called, and one of my jobs is to make sure this is current. It's obviously not current. So one of my goals this year is to try to get every facility reevaluated as I go do inspections throughout the year. Just my normal yearly inspections, that I can keep this in mind when I go to those facilities and update them. But there may be others, or there may be some buildings in particular that you're aware of things that you may know that maybe I wouldn't notice, or things like that. So I just want to give you guys an idea what these look like, and if there's any areas that you can provide input, not just for this one building. I just provided this as an example, but these are things that you can give me that information. I can make sure it gets captured into the assessment, and I can update that in real time now that I found it electronically. So I just thought that might be something of interest to you, and an area where you could help kind of provide information that.
so is this kind of a generic blueprint in terms of looking at various facilities in town?
This is the one that I have that was created before, yeah. So each facility has this, but each marking is unique to that facility, but yeah. But this may not have been updated, so there may be changes in requirements, which I'll have to go through and review if any of the rules have changed since 2008, and update these, and that may change some of these responses. So, because I don't know what the rules were in 2008 at that time, so.
it's been a while.
Yeah. So, that's also something, if you guys happen to know of, you may be more well-versed on the rules than I am, and it's not a bad thing if you notice something while you're reading this and you say, oh, that's off, or it's missing something entirely, maybe we should add that. Those are areas of input. If you provide that to me, I can make sure that that gets considered and not overlooked. So, yeah. But anyway, I don't expect you to go through it all today and give me all your feedback, but
Interesting now, wow.
yeah. And so these are supposed to be when the town is either doing an event or doing a renovation project of any scope, that this document is available to help guide what improvements may be necessary or wanted, even if it's not necessary for the project, but maybe if it's within the budget, they can extend the project slightly, just whatever it is, and then they can, and so that's supposed to be help guide those things so that they don't get overlooked when these projects are going on, because people have good intentions, but overlooks happen and people miss things, so that's what the point of this is. So, yeah, just wanted to give you guys any feedback on anything. I'm happy to take it. You can email it and make it part of the agenda next time, or whatever it is,
Okay.
just to help me with my inspections.
Do we know if they came out with like a new form since 2008, or something we can look at? Do you know?
This isn't a statewide standardized form as far as I know. This
Okay,
is what-
I didn't know if it came out by some group, or, do you know what I mean, like if,
You know, there may have been. I don't know who came up with this, so I will,
there's no name on it, do you know, like this-
yeah, there's no like standard form, like
You can
form.
go to the ADA website, though, and they have all different transition plans
Oh, do they?
that you can print out for different projects going on in the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can get some maybe updated formats.
Oh, yeah, if you go to their website, they have all kinds of transition plans, completion plans.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. There are actually quite a few of them.
The note here at the top of the page says recommendations for development of a transition plan was completed by New England Disability Services. I don't know if that means they're the ones that actually devise the plan.
But they're available on the ADA
Where does it say that?
At the top of the page, and there's a physical inspection made by Adele Reynolds, and their recommendations.
oh, yeah.
So that might have been, it might have been outsourced to somebody at that time. I don't even know if this position was full-time back then, my position, so they may not have had the, may not even had the resources, they might have had to hire somebody else.
Yeah, but we can get the transition plans and all that right off the ADA website.
Okay. I didn't know that happened, or they had that, I'll look it up.
Does anybody have anything else on that? We'll leave that for an agenda item for next time. Just leave that one rolling for now. Anything else?
Bless you.
Me.
So number 6 is Oktoberfest for discussion. I know, Paul, you wanted that on there.
Yes. Excuse me.
No, you're good.
The, one of the things that I was looking at, and have been looking at for some time, the ADA Commission is empowered to review anything that's happening on town property, whether it's a private thing or whether it's a public thing. So, for example, the sensory picnic that's on a town property, we could actually review that if we so chose to and see what's going on, offer recommendations or whatever. I think it's probably a little late in the ballgame for that one this year. But Oktoberfest is one of those things that I was actually kind of wondering if we would be able to maybe start by asking the Oktoberfest committee for a plan for accessibility. So, basically, as they're setting up Oktoberfest, what are their plans for accommodating people with disabilities for Oktoberfest? I don't have it with me, but the particular language goes to the effect of, I can remember this, to the effect of that it doesn't have to be 100% fully ADA accessible, every single little piece of it, but it basically, people with disabilities have to be afforded an equal opportunity to enjoy as much of it as somebody without a disability would be able to. So something like all the parking up at the high school, and then telling somebody like myself with a wheelchair, well, you have to get on the bus, you can take one wheelchair at a time and take that down. That doesn't give me the freedom to come and go as I please, which is something that everybody else can do. So that's one of the things I would, ask that the Oktoberfest committee take a look at, is what are the accommodations really for parking, particularly for people with using equipment for getting around. So things like that was kind of the idea that I had when I suggested that we put this on the agenda.
The language is something like what you said. I don't know it exactly either, but you have to be able to, in some way, participate to your ability, whatever that is. So in an Oktoberfest example, it might be maybe if they, I've never been to this one, but maybe if there's a beer garden area that has always been that spot, maybe that specific area is not possible to be accessible, but they can have a spot next to it that a person in a wheelchair could participate in the same general area, but maybe it's not possible there. They don't have to revamp everything, but they have to provide something where you can in some way participate. So that would be meeting the intent of that requirement. That's true.
So I know that some things I haven't been myself because of the various complications, but one of the things when looking at previous photos that I've seen of it, I've noticed, and I don't know if they're still doing this, but a number of the booths have been like up on the grass. So you have the street, you've got the sidewalk, and you've got the grass, and they've set up tents and displays and things like that on the grass. I can't get on the sidewalk, I can't get to the grass, I can't get to the booth. So anything on the grass along Main Street is basically inaccessible because, as we talked about last week, the sidewalks are inaccessible for all intents and purposes.
So last year, Main Street had it, and it was off of Main Street. So every booth was accessible from the roadway. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then up Depot Street was accessible from the front of the booths. Do you know what I mean? So the back of the booths were behind the grass. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then they were facing into the roadway. My only thing with parking is there's handicap accessible parking at Pier is one of the spots. Soldiers Field is the other one. You're sort of stuck, and I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I drive around that for my part at the fire department. I drive around there all day. There isn't really, I don't know what the better solution would be off the top of my head. Do you know what I mean? Because like when we set up the parking for Soldiers Field, we have the CERT team there, and they leave spots, as many as we can get. Do you know what I mean? Like, we make sure. I just don't know what the solution would be.
What about the senior center, the parking lot back up behind the senior center and the post office?
You could. Yeah, I didn't even...
Pretty extensive area that if that was set aside for people with mobility needs to...
Yeah, I never thought about that because I don't normally go that side of it. Do you mean like I do normally the other side?
Well, but if you take a step back, I think the point is that you want to liaise with the Oktoberfest committee. That's the key.
Yeah.
point.
No, I get that.
Yeah, basically just asking them if what their if they would mind providing us with a plan that basically says what their plans are for, and that would be a place to start. So
That's a great use for this committee is exactly that.
Yeah. So, but before we go at them, so to
No,
speak, see what I would be interested to hear hear what they've got in mind already, rather than going back and like reinventing the wheel or something.
Advise and educate. That's right. That's exactly what you're doing. So I think that's a really good idea, personally.
So we can definitely reach out to them and see what they have. Do you know what I mean? And then we can go from there. If
Well, listen to this conversation.
Oh,
Very interesting.
I thought.
Can I make a comment? Am I allowed to make a comment?
yeah.
Just state your name for the record, Bob.
I'm Eric, Economic Development.
Come sit down.
I'm here for another reason, but I'll sit down with my comment.
Sure.
Okay.
It's a very good point you made, is the proximity of handicap parking, because I have a handicap sticker myself, and you just don't want to walk long distances. Could you approach Jackman's Funeral Parlor and convert those spaces that day, Oktoberfest, to handicap parking? And the reason I know that is we just went to fireworks in Blackstone, and they took the middle school and took an entire parking lot and made it temporary handicap for that night only.
I I like that idea, because it's super close. The only thing in those parking spots are we put a fire truck up there. It sits behind the
Correct,
building.
and because you block off the entrance to the bank.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want
Yeah.
nefarious activity coming in the back door, if you know what I mean. But that could easily be handicapped parking. The other one is on Cottage Street, what's that building down? Is that Knights of Columbus, or what's that building across from the church on Cottage Street?
I know.
The Mason Hall?
The old Mason.
Mason Hall?
Yeah.
There's probably 5 spaces there that are outside the barriers. Those could be temporary handicap as well.
So these all private?
Both are private, yes.
Require a phone call or knocking on the door to somebody and asking them.
I mean, Oktoberfest could provide the signage. It's just, sign out for handicap parking only. And I know the bank does have a few, what's the bank there? Unibank.
Yeah.
They do have handicap parking, but 2, 3. They could also dedicate a whole row, temporary. Yeah, I'm in the same boat you are. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But a lot of old New England towns, this is exactly what the towns are up against, is trying to deal with age-old infrastructure that was developed around horse cart roads, and certainly had no thoughts about rollators or walkers or wheelchairs or even crutches or canes. They can be, depending on the area, can be rough.
Yeah. Well, through the chair, can I go to item number 2? Quick. I'm working with you guys on ADA compliant sidewalks. As you know, we just did Depot Street. We're paving that within a few weeks. We'll be striping it. And I don't know if you've noticed, I know Sarah already filled out a form for me, but we have painted a test crosswalk. Have you gone through it yet?
I haven't gone through it, but I know.
Okay, but it's the large white stripes crossing the 2 dimple pads on each side.
I'm sorry, where was that at?
You come out of here, and it's right past the Martin intersection. There's a white stripes, longitudinal stripes, painted across the road.
It's probably what I just saw as I was coming here.
Yeah.
And you're probably wondering,
Two different
two different...
spacings right now.
Yeah.
To see what people think is more visible. I assume that's what you're about to handle.
Yeah, and I'm trying, I need surveys, because I have a safety committee meeting Monday, you'll be there.
Yep.
And then I have to go present this to selectmen. We have to pick a pattern. Right now, we have as many types of crosswalks for handicapped as we have in town employees. We are just non-standard. So we're trying to get non-standard to pick one pattern, and we've narrowed it down to two patterns, and they're both painted on the street, so you can physically see what they look like. The stripes are the same size. They're all 18 inches wide, 8 feet long. The subtle difference is the spacing between the white stripes. On the town hall side, they're 18-inch spacing. On the going away from the town hall opposite side, they're 24-inch. So all I need to know is which type you prefer. There's, right now,
Don't give away the results.
survey's pretty much leaning in one direction, and I won't tell you because I don't want to cloud your memory. I need your honest opinion. So I'm just going to hand out a quick survey form, throw these in my box. Got a meeting with the safety committee on Monday, so it's only the 3 of you because Eric and Sarah have already filled out a form.
Okay.
Please. The top half is just explaining what I just explained, the 4 questions on the bottom.
Also, another detail about those is you added something to the paint, right, to make it more visible?
More reflect, that paint not have the glass beads in it.
But the final one
The
will.
final paint will have glass beads so they're visible at night.
much.
Okay.
And the whole idea of a crosswalk is what catches your eye. The last thing you want to do is hear a thump, look in your rear view mirror and say, was that a crosswalk? We don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate the work you guys are doing. It's all teamwork in the name of safety. So, thank you for letting me speak.
Anytime.
And I'm good. Any questions for me?
No?
No? Okay, thank you.
He's put a lot of time into crosswalks. You have no idea. He's driven all the towns and checked them all and looked at all the patterns, and then I reviewed it with the highway standards for spacing and sizing and stuff. He's been very invested in getting good crosswalks, so.
Good for him and good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good for everybody.
Some of these things you get into, it's like going down the rabbit hole.
Oh,
You think, I'm doing something simple, and you start looking at it, and then you look at that, and then you look at that, and then you look at that, and yeah.
He was joking, he went out to dinner, and he's like, oh, there's a crosswalk, let me go measure that real quick. And his wife's like, did we go here because you wanted to eat here, or did we go here because you wanted to measure that crosswalk? I don't think she liked the answer.
That's good. I like that.
So getting back to the Oktoberfest, do you have any other ideas?
Maybe, but like I said, I'd like to ask them if they would mind giving us a plan that they have as far as what they've looked at already, and then we can advise on whether we think that would be a good idea, or suggest modifications if they want to make them, suggest new ideas if we see something that isn't there at all.
I do like the parking idea now. It was, I think Soldiers Field is a little far away, especially the hill it's on.
Yeah.
It's down. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
I think that Mr. Menarek's idea was a good idea. You just make it just for that. Like the only other people in the Jackman parking lot are fire truck and an ambulance. Like there really isn't anybody else there. I like the idea. It solves a lot of a headache during that day for sure. Then.
And actually,
I don't mean that in a bad way, because you can't find the people a spot to park and you want to help them. I didn't mean it in a bad way,
Right,
but
right.
that's just the thing. But go ahead.
if you did that, then you would have parking at that end, and then if you were able to use behind the senior center, then you'd have parking at this end, which would be ideal.
I don't know what happens down at the senior center side if you do on that day.
They're open that day. They sell chili and beverages, chips, and have an indoor tag
But
sale.
you can't even pull in that parking lot, right? Normally.
No, not usually, because the
Yeah.
bus drops off there from the school. And I think last year they might have had some cars there for the car show.
Yeah.
I'm stuck at the beer garden all day,
Yeah.
so.
But yeah, I like that though. That's really the big issue for that day, I think, is the parking. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that people have gone home because they can't figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've sat there and tried to explain to people where to go, but it just
Right.
Yeah.
not easy.
Now, I heard somebody mention at one point that it might have been my wife asking somebody about Oktoberfest last year, that the handicap parking was 2 spots next to the goodness store. Well, I had occasion, I never paid any attention to them, but I had occasion to actually pull into that spot because my wife had to go across the street to the senior center to get her father out because just traffic, we didn't want to go in there. And it's all dirt and broken pieces of asphalt and everything else, and it's slanted and
Yeah,
rough.
it's on a hill.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's not handicap parking, by any stretch of the imagination. So,
It's definitely something, so we'll reach out, reach out to the Oktoberfest committee and go from there and see what they say. you? Anybody have anything else?
No?
Do we want to approve the minutes if we're going to move on, or do we want to wait for Dick? So some people, every committee does it different.
Yeah, we don't have to approve
You know, because they,
tonight.
normally, like, the other ones I'm on, they wait for everybody to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, because then, that's just how it goes. So we'll put approved minutes on the next one, just so he can have a chance
Yeah.
to read them. And if there's something he wants to change or do different, or
Yeah,
everyone gets the chance.
yeah.
And now we're on to my favorite one of the day, is number 8, the open sessions for topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance.
I have one.
Okay?
Me too.
Oh, good. You go first.
You can go first. You said it first.
You
Go
sure?
ahead. Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
okay.
You may be thinking the same thing I am. Who knows?
Oh, maybe. I was just going to say, at last night's Economic Development Committee meeting, they were talking about the Riverwalk that they're working on. There's 2 different areas. The area by B Street, where the axe mill used to be, so right now it's woods.
Across from the house.
Across from the 3 houses, yeah. So they're talking about doing like a Riverwalk area there. They had like nice, Margaret Bacon was presenting it, and they have like nice drawn up plans. It's an idea right now. It's like in the idea phase, so it's nothing set in stone, but, you know, they're getting their ideas together. So, you know, I kind of piped in and mentioned to them that, you know, it would be great if they could keep accessibility in mind, and they were talking about getting picnic tables, and, you know, I said if we could get an accessible picnic table. I know Dick was huge on that. And so I basically just told them, you know, contact us if they wanted any help with that, or...
Is this a public or a private? But I know it's vision right now, but
You know
would
what?
be-
It's something that came out of master plan, if I'm not mistaken. I think master plan committee is sort of where this started, and I should have asked Bob while he was here, because he was at that meeting, so. But they're both, and the other project is like the parking lot on Gilboa Street across from the mill, where they're thinking of doing like some kind of trail set up with, they were talking about, you know, kind of having a, I won't exactly say a boardwalk, but some kind of crossing there. So, you know, I told them to keep us in mind if they wanted
So
feedback.
I think the Gilboa Street one is on town property.
Yeah.
Right.
The other one, I don't think it's town property right now, but I think there's the possibility of it being gifted to us, if I understood it correctly.
'Cause the reason why I was asking is if this ever gets developed, if I'll see a permit for it or not.
Yeah.
So parking lot, I'll never see a permit
Right.
for unless it's related to a business.
Yeah.
In which case, then we have to, I approve their parking lot plan.
Right.
And I verify that they have accessible spots and all that.
Yeah.
A lot of these little projects, like trails and parking lots, I don't ever see that stuff.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
If they're going to
and-
build a structure,
I don't think they're
I'll
gonna-
make sure it's accessible.
Yeah, I know they were talking about how, like, it's kind of close to the riverfront, so they might have to find out, like, how close they can get. They were talking about maybe taking down some of the, like, nori maples, like invasive types of trees. You know, but they sounded like they wanted to keep it very natural. They said maybe they could do a mulch trail, and I was kind of thinking, like, that was one of the questions. I didn't know if mulch is
I'm
considered.
confused.
No, it's not.
So it's on B Street,
Yep.
between B and, like, the
Between
fitness
B and the
store?
river. Yeah, so like,
It's between
it's like if you're
Walk down
Street
there. It's
and
not really a
Mechanic
place to
Street.
walk.
like if you're across from, like, so there's the 3 large mill houses.
Yep,
Like right
on B.
If you're like right across the street from that, like where the woods are there's like those metal poles sticking up out of the ground, and then the river is behind that. So like they want to take that piece of land basically that's between that side of B Street and the river. So that's like the area they're talking about. They were talking about like doing kind of just a walking trails thing at first, and then maybe phasing in a parking area there. A lot of it also kind of hinged on what's under the soil. They don't want to do any kind of excavating because the axe mill was there, and I guess they're a little nervous about touching what's under there. So, yeah, so I just thought I'd bring that up because, I mentioned to them, if they're planning on putting trails, I know they're talking about they're trying to keep it low budget and they want to keep it natural, but I said,
So where's the trail gonna go?
that I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they've really
Like, is it just gonna
decided too
span
much.
between the streets
The
of
bridges?
Crook and Mechanic?
I'm guessing so. I'm guessing it's just gonna, and they said like putting picnic tables, like they just kind of want to have like a nice little, they called it like a river walk. So like
Yeah.
a nice little place to walk along.
Okay.
I know the river, like it drops down there, like pretty substantially.
Far drop.
But yeah.
So you're talking about right behind the grill and picket fence,
Yeah,
This area
pretty
right
much,
here?
because, yeah, so we've
Very-
we've
with
got.
Mumford River, this is Manchaw, Cook Street, this is B
Yeah,
Street
Trying to
up
figure
here,
out if this is a public or a
Yeah, so I'm
private.
talking about like right here.
right there along that part of the
Yeah.
river. Okay.
Yep.
And I think, because I did some research on trails, so unimproved trails where they're just cutting branches down and to move, that those don't have to be accessible, but if it's an improved trail where they're bringing in dirt and clearing land and things like that, then they would have to make an effort to make it accessible. So there's a key, if it's a nature trail versus like a river walk,
Yeah.
to me, sounds like an improvement. I guess it really depends on what they're trying to
Like
accomplish.
where it falls on that.
Yeah, if you're just, like, the rocks and things are there, and we're just going to clear out an area, and you can walk between two places, they don't have to improve
Yeah.
that. That's
Oh.
just a nature trail.
And there was someone else there, and I feel kind of silly that I missed her name because I think I left the room when she introduced herself. But I gave her my email. She was from the I'm going to forget what it is, Central Mass Planning, whatever their abbreviation is. So she was there, to talk to economic development last night, and she actually, when I made the comment about, reaching out to us if they needed anything, she said having an ADA plan is very important for like getting grants, and she asked if we had one, and I said like we literally just got the committee together, so I said it was probably something we would work on.
We
but
do have the ADA plan for getting grants. That's
Oh,
what this
good. Yeah.
form that I gave you from
Right.
2008, because it exists, allows
Yeah.
allows grants.
Oh, good. Yeah, she asked how
My
old
goal
it
is to
was, and
just
I said
update
I
it.
thought it was like more than 10 years old, because,
Yeah, it's 20,
yeah.
it's almost.
Yeah, right.
But to be fair, a lot of these buildings, very little
Haven't
has
changed,
changed
right.
on it, so many things may be the exact same check boxes.
Yeah.
So not much has changed in that period of time, so.
Yeah.
But we do have a plan for grants, so.
Oh,
that-
awesome.
That is the answer to that question.
And I think she kind of said something like maybe they could help them with applying for some or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I did give her my email, so if I hear anything of import, I'll bring it to you guys.
No, I ran in, just picking up on what you're talking about, Dick on Open Space Committee, and he's been working on clearing trails and things like that, and he wanted to work on making some of the trails accessible. And so he asked me to kind of take a look into what might be different ways of doing that. And one of the things I came across is, and I'd have to go back and look again or get confirmation from a different source, but one place that I looked, it sounded like as far as outdoor trails go, is there really is no specific requirement by law to make outdoor trails accessible.
Correct.
But, and this seemed like the big but, if you step into that rabbit hole and you want to put the sign up that says accessible trail, now there is criteria that needs to be met. And it's not under ADA law, but it's under, I think, might have been Parks Administration or something like that. They have guidelines that they use for creating accessible trails. So,
It's one of those things, is it an improved trail, which creates, versus like all these nature trails,
Right,
state in the
right.
forest and stuff, they're just.
right, so I mean, it's
paths
a
through the woods.
specific surface
Right.
that, a couple of different specific surfaces that you have to use. There has to be a pull-out area for like passing room and things like that. So, yeah, and then the grading, the slopes all come into play.
I
And
was reading a lot of that after our last meeting, just to familiarize me, yep.
so, yeah, so it's, This will be interesting because, yeah, like I said, I know that Dick had an interest in the Open Space Committee and some of the spaces they're working on. The one thing that does, it's talking about grants, it's a matching grant. I'd have to go back and look again on this one, but a town can apply, it's like Open Space Committee could apply for this grant if they had a commitment from the town to match the grant. And it's a grant from the state that would provide like half the cost. I know Mendon did it for something that they were working on.
If I may, there was something, I think he mentioned it, but it might have been somebody else, that there was one particular trail that was, I don't know if there's a rock or something that was in the way from accessing it, so it may not be a accessible trail, but just sometimes maybe moving some small barrier could allow people to maybe not use fully, truly accessible trails, but trails that are pretty close and maybe usable otherwise. Those might be an easy win to identify some of those that costs very little to move a couple rocks with a piece of equipment to say it's not an accessible trail, but you can actually now fit something through there or like that. And that costs very little. It was something that was on my mind after last time's conversation. So just to throw it out there, if anybody.
The easy victories are the ones that don't cost a lot of money.
Right. Well, and it could be big improvements for people for very little effort.
Yes.
The low-hanging fruit, if you want to use the, maybe those are things to add to your list of things to just maybe quick wins.
Do we have a list of things, or are we just starting this now?
I think
or?
we're just starting the list, so.
Okay. Can I start the list?
Absolutely.
I would like to propose that the municipal center move the HP parking spots from all the way down there to up directly across from the ramp.
You're not?
I just had to use that one down there, and I actually getting out of the vehicle to go around the back and get my chair, I didn't realize it was a slope, and I almost went down on
You're
the
not the first person to say that.
No. Just a suggestion.
Makes a lot of sense.
And then the other thing that I just wanted to bring up, we had talked about doing a survey, and so you went looking for the mission statement, I went looking for surveys. And Amherst did a public input survey, and I didn't make copies of it. I have actually just kind of briefly looked at it. But it's just a kind of a generic survey that I thought might be something that we want to look at, and I can get copies made of it and bring it next time, or I don't know if we can make copies here of it, but it's, they can, or if we can even do it online. I don't know where, I know talking about doing the trails, I know the Gilboa Street one, I think they've had this survey online for a while.
Yeah.
In terms of what people want to see. So.
Yeah, we could probably get them to put it on the website, when we have a survey together, and then make printed copies for like different locations.
Maybe do that on the next meeting.
The survey?
Yeah.
Sure. Zoom bombing.
So it's basically, it's a kind of just a very easy to answer 10 questions, asking about participation, asking about town staff attitudes, and then anything that they would like to maybe see done. That's
Okay.
So for the next one, we'll add the survey, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
The mission statement.
Yeah, that's not on this, I was just going to copy this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I spaced out. And then we'll do the minutes for both meetings
Yep.
at the same time. Does anybody have anything else?
Is somebody going to contact the Oktoberfest committee?
So I have to see how that works, because I'm pretty sure we have someone do it for us. Do you know what I mean? So you don't make that whole
Yeah,
open meeting law.
I think that'd be Jackie.
I think Jackie does it for us.
Yeah, okay.
So,
We'll update on that next
Yeah.
time.
yeah, I'm gonna go over it and see.
I
Jackie.
don't know.
Yeah, I think that's how that works.
You still got about 15 minutes if you want to go talk to her.
Okay. So, if anybody doesn't have anything else,
I've got nothing.
I don't.
just look for the motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.